It is the thing that I've been building towards forever, and I just can't wait. I'm thrilled.
At the heart of Scott Snyder's Justice League lies a passion, care, and genuine love of a fan who grew up watching the Super Friends and the animated series, clouded by a surface covered in profoundly baffling plot structures, bone-dry characters, and a debilitating amount of text bubbles. As I carried on reading this next batch of stories, I realized this book is kind of unreadable. The heart and the ambition and the genuine reason to love this book, they're all still there, but there's some problems. If you thought the totality was confusing, it was. And it gets worse. And these problems, they're all fixable. I'm honestly surprised some of these mistakes made it to print consistently. But let's jump into these stories, this just prime selection of what Snyder has to offer. So let's start with Escape from Hawkworld. So while Black Manta is admitting his hentai obsession to the League back on Earth, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, and Hawkgirl travel to Thanagar Prime to seek information about the 7 hidden forces of the universe from the Keep. The team lands on Thanagar Prime and meets... Oh, fuck me. This is gonna be a Hawkman-centric story, isn't it? Anyone saying they understand the Hawk people's origins is like saying they understand the healthcare system. They're a giant fucking liar. I've read at least 100 issues worth of Hawkman comics, and if someone put a gun to my head and asked me to explain Hawkman's origin, I couldn't fucking do it. I'd just be dead. Now the Hawks themselves, they're fine characters. I just don't want to listen through a fucking preamble every time they show up. You see that character there? That's Hawkgirl. When you see that character she's talking to, that's also Hawkgirl. You see, after Dark Knight's Metal and Robert Vendetti's surprisingly competent Hawkman series, he explains that the Hawks not only reincarnate across time, they also reincarnate across space. What that means for us is, don't worry about how confusing the Hawks are. If something comes up that contradicts each other, just blame it on spatial reincarnation. So the Hawkgirl we've been following in this book is Kendra Saunders, former Black Hawk and now a superhero. And this new Hawkgirl is Shiera Hall, who is the leader of Thanagar Prime. You know, for what it's worth, this isn't even the worst explained thing in this run. So bad news bears for the League because it turns out the Keep is big dead. You see, the Keep was kept on Thanagar Prime as the planet is known for a secret system of vaults where other worlds can store their most private possessions, and the Keep was stored in this vault to protect all of Mars's knowledge. But Shiera is a big fucking liar, and it turns out the Keep is still alive somewhere in the depths of the vault. Back on Earth, Starman starts waking up from his nap, to which Superman replies, "We need to evacuate the planet!" Which, calm the fuck down, Superman. That's a bit of an overreaction. And the same goes for you, Snyder. Why do we have to give this 10-panel subplot a higher death count than like Infinite Crisis? But Batman's easily handling this situation the most suboptimally out of all these all-star superheroes. When Supes mentions the energy in the room makes him feel like he could crack the earth in half, Batman responds, well, don't. What a fucking asshole. Well, geez, Batman, I never would have thought of that. Fucking world's greatest detective by ass. Anyway, the Space Bunch breaks into the vault, where they find the Keep, and then they learn the secrets of the universe, so... oh boy, here we go. Back at the start of the universe, the Malthusians discovered there were 7 secret forces of the universe that once unlocked would bring back Perpetua, the mother of the multiverse. Oh, and John's still an architect in case you fucking forgot. Perpetua here originally created a race that was a mix of humans and Martians. Humans had the emotion element and Martians had a good mind and a good body. But somewhere along the line they split up, and that's why John was abducted as a child. Because some humans were doing research on fusing humans and Martians to restore this ancient alien life form. Now I know what I just explained sounded like 100 words or less, but don't worry, because in this book it takes a whole fucking issue. So the team nearly dies before they're saved by Starman, who also restores Shiera's energy back into Kendra? And this is my favorite part of the story, because like, what the actual fuck did he just do? They're both still alive. Kendra didn't change in any way. She never mentions this for the rest of the story. She's just complete now. Wasn't aware that she wasn't. Like, Shiera asks what Starman just did to her, and he just can't answer the question. So a few things about this story. First off, I figured out the golden fucking rule of this run. I know this might sound like a bit of a conspiracy, but hear me out. The League and the Legion are too stressed after how serious this conflict between Justice and Doom is, so they agreed that one member in every scene, no matter how fucking serious, has to be the comic relief character. Stick with me. So let's start with a matrix where X matrix is equal to a list in descending order from reasonable fucking character down to the Flash. So if big N represents the total number of characters that exist in this book, and little n represents all the characters present in a scene, we can add one to show which character is going to be the funniest character in the scene. If Flash is in a scene, boy is he gonna forget he's not Wally West. If the rest of the league is busy trying to recreate a half-assed Throne of Atlantis, don't worry, because Green Lantern's gonna somehow get over his guilt of killing Xanshi and toss out a one-liner. I think Snyder just Googled Jon Stewart before this run, found a Wikipedia article on the comedian, and gave him that personality.
Also, he's an architect.
You think I'm kidding? I've done the math, and this shit's fucking solid. Even when Luthor and Brainiac are in a scene together, which mind you, neither of these characters crack jokes in the most amusing of circumstances. Lex has to be funny because, Brainiac's a literal robot. Snyder also has this horrible thing where his characters joke under their breath, like here when Luthor mentions he was immortal. Before I killed him! Comics are interesting because they play with time in a very unique way. You can have a character mentioning something and a character reacting to their speech in the same panel. So the panel doesn't actually represent a clear point in time, it's not just a freeze frame. But for some reason, when you cram this amount of under-the-breath dialogue into one panel, it becomes painstakingly obvious that a character can't speak this long in the same amount of time. Snyder, it's okay for these characters to have a conversation without someone cracking a joke. Like when Starman makes a star-shaped portal and Batman mentions, hence the name. But Snyder has to keep things funny and entertaining because the main plot is so impressively uninteresting. For an entire story that centers around secrets, Snyder has such a lack of understanding of what makes secrets interesting. The whole point of a secret is that you make the reader want to know something. You give hints little by little to draw the reader in. But in this story, the Keep just tells the audience everything at once. But they still have to keep explaining it like every few issues for some reason. And look, the revelation that the multiverse was created with evil intentions is just not a reveal at all. Before this, our characters knew absolutely nothing about the origins of the universe. It's not like the universe was believed to be created by a benevolent being that loved everyone. No one knew a goddamn thing about how the universe was started. So when they learned that the multiverse was created for a sinister purpose, the League is like, yeah, that makes sense. At no point does this revelation challenge the core of any of these characters. No one stops for a second and thinks, well shit, maybe we should just be bad guys. I mean, that's what our creator would have wanted. Like when Luke found out Darth Vader was his father, everything from the previous film and a half kind of clicked into place. Oh, Yoda wanted him to learn the Force because he knew his father fell to the dark side. Oh, that's why Obi-Wan wanted to protect me. There's this rush of insight that we as an audience feel from this monumental change. But with the Perpetua reveal, we're just like, sure. And it certainly doesn't help that we learn like 7 different secrets at once. We learn about the connection between the humans and the Martians, we learn about Perpetua, we learn about John being abducted as a child. Like, John is so concerned with his childhood abduction that he just doesn't even react to the fact that the universe was created to be a killing machine. Why dump all of this information on us at once? But who cares, because John got her with a sick burn.
It is the thing that I've been building towards forever.
So now the Justice League, which is at this point basically just Starman and his minions, go to repair the Source Wall. Now of course we get some out-of-the-park continuity here. You got the New Gods, the Green Lanterns, the Thanagarians, and they're all here to refuse the Omega Titans to the Source Wall and band-aid the whole situation. They even brought Kyle Rayner here because he knows a lot about the Source Wall when he flew in to replenish the emotional reservoir. And that last one's a lie. Kyle is here, but they never once bring up that he's the only person to actually go into the Source Wall. Missed opportunity, but whatever. But you know what? This might be one of my favorite issues in this run. The scale in this issue is outstanding. Siempre does a great job of cutting from close-up shots in the Justice League ship to these expansive depictions of the Source Wall. And most of the time, the perspective is from Starman or another hero, so we feel just as small in front of these Omega Titans as the heroes do. Like, when have we ever got to see the New Gods working with the Green Lantern Corps, working with the Justice League? This is how you bring characters together to make things feel important. But of course, this isn't just a cakewalk for the League, because the Legion comes riding in an armada of Brainiac spaceships. And this sequence is just fucking awesome, because the League just can't find the mothership. Now mind you, this is what the League saw when Brainiac arrived, and they couldn't figure out which one was the one in charge. Well shit, my guess would be the one that looks distinct and is 10 times bigger than any of the other ships. But the League is just like, they're all decoys, which one is it? Fuck, maybe the one that's shaped like a skull and that he used last time he invaded the Earth? Fucking Telos could figure this shit out better than you guys. And the Legion is here because they want to make Starman explode to free Perpetua from her prison. So right as the League is inches away from restoring the Source Wall, the Legion fires at Starman, causing the totality to go haywire, the Source Wall to explode, and the glorious return of the Mother of the Universe. So let's stick her inside this tube. There is just so much wrong with Perpetua's revival in this issue. Like, this is the grand reveal of the most powerful being in the DC universe, and she just kind of goes, "Nyeh," and passes out.
It is the thing.
How was this the moment we were building towards? She's clearly not powerful enough yet to do anything, so she just flops around until the Legion of Doom restrain her. Like, she's the size of a fucking galaxy in this panel, and then 2 seconds later she's got like 2 inches on Lex Luthor. And also, wasn't the entire point of the story that you need all 7 hidden forces of the universe to unlock Perpetua? Because the Legion currently has like 4 maybe. Why did we just circumnavigate this whole buildup with Brainiac just saying, well, if we blow Starman up, we can just kind of unlock her right away. But it doesn't matter because she'll still be comatose for the majority of the plot. As a storyteller, there is literally one scene that you need to pay off by the end of your story. Oftentimes, happens during the climax, but there's no particular rule about it. During the inciting incident of a story, the series of events is put into motion that gives the reader an expectation of something to happen later in the plot. The moment is when the story comes to a head, and when the forces of heroism and antagonism converge, and the hero must make a choice that forever alters their life. The inciting incident in The Dark Knight is when the Joker robs the bank. When we see Batman investigate this robbery, we as an audience expect Batman and Joker to come into battle at some point during the movie. And the inciting incident in Snyder's Justice League was the totality crashing and unlocking the 7 forces of the universe. So the only thing we as a reader expect is for the 7 forces to be unlocked and for Perpetua to be freed. But it only took 4 forces to free Perpetua? But it still takes the other 3 to activate her power, except it fucking doesn't. Why go against the rules of what we went out of our way to establish in this run? When you resurrect the most powerful being in the universe, I expect some major shit to happen. Remember in Raiders when the Nazis unlocked the Ark of the Covenant and God just like melts all of their faces off? That's what I expect from unlocking a powerful being. Or remember in Legends of Tomorrow when Damien Dark summoned Malice, so the only way they could defeat him was by becoming a giant stuffed animal? Point is, when you set someone up as the most powerful being in the universe, you better make him powerful, and you better make their arrival a big deal. Don't just summon her and then say, we'll deal with it later. I'm losing my mind over this because I do not understand the logic behind this choice at all. Have the Legion blow up the source wall, sure, but don't make them summon Perpetua. So now it's time for Martian Manhunter and Lex Luthor to become friends. So Jean decides that the best course of action to defeat the Legion is to call Lex to Mars and talk about the past. And wow, does it not work. Snyder gives us the most balls fucking retcon yet by revealing that Jean was actually abducted as a child by Lex Luthor's dad, and during this time, Jean and Lex would sneak away as friends to play superhero. Because when there's no properly built character interactions to build on, might as well invent some contrived secret origin. Like, I don't mind this secret origin, but the only reason it exists is so at the climax of the story, Jean can just go, "Remember when you and I were friends, Luthor?" And Luthor can go, "I'm sorry, John. I now see the error of my ways. Let's go have a scene where we're all happy together until, I don't know, an army of evil Superman for the 12th dimension invade the Earth or some shit. That way Snyder can rope us into his next big event." And Jean's appeal to Luthor's humanity almost works, but he gets cut off at the last minute. So Jean winds back up at the Hall of Justice, where the League plan to travel to the 5th dimension to save the Source Wall. But before that, it's time to check in on the Legion of Doom. You know, given that every 5th issue of this run is dedicated to the Legion of Doom, it's impressive how underdeveloped they are. We might as well just call these issues Lex Luthor plus his group of grunts he's probably going to betray at the end of the series. Joker left the team because he realized none of these guys do anything interesting. I mean, the second Black Manta got the spotlight, he got kicked out of the Legion. We never get to see any of these guys besides Lex and Brainiac do anything interesting. So naturally, this issue is all about Lex and Brainiac's bromance. Brainiac plugs into Luthor's mind for some reason. I think they're trying to find the 6th hidden force, which there's no way Snyder even knows what the fuck's going on in this book anymore. Lex, you have found 4 of the hidden forces so far, so maybe try and get the 5th one before you go on to the 6th. And of course, Brainiac just instantly betrays Lex and tries to override his body, which leads to Lex's master plan to convert Brainiac to Christianity. So we get a whole issue of Lex preaching to Brainiac until Brainiac is like, "Get to the point," and Lex is just like, "Shut up." Every issue in this run is a fucking lecture. Half the time it's Snyder re-explaining something because he did such a bad job of explaining it in the first place, and the other half the time it's some new revelation that we have to give a whole issue to give it more significance. Issue after issue after issue. Snyder never balances his writing with the visuals. Comics are an incredibly unique medium because it offers almost no restrictions in storytelling. The space between panels and visuals allows you to spend tens of dollars underpaying an artist instead of spending tens of thousands to get the same effect in CG. You also get the best of the novel and the best of the film. With the novel, you're able to get fully into the head of the characters due to the deep narration. And in film, you're able to rely on the visuals and realistic dialogue to get in touch with the world and the story. In comics, you get both, but Snyder never really takes advantage of this. Throughout his whole series, he never uses internal narration. The only way we get to learn about how these characters feel is through dialogue, and he never gives us any of it. Instead of characters talking to each other to reveal information, he just picks one character to talk for the entire issue to top the info dump that he just did in the previous issue. The most basic rule of storytelling is show, don't tell, but Snyder crams his pages with more and more backstory and exposition. Like, you think if he revealed everything to the audience in Hawkworld, that would be the last info dump he'd have to do, but he just keeps going on. Snyder got his start in prose, and it definitely shows in the series. So in this tour day exposition, we learn about Vandal's quest for the totality, and how his father ended up working for Vandal until he got mind wiped and turned into a drunken wreck. Again, Snyder's greatest strength is his passion. We get ties to Ares, the Wizard Shazam, Ra's al Ghul, and a ton of other characters in this issue. So for every unbearable technique he uses, you can still tell how authentic and passionate Snyder is in this series. And we finally, after 18 issues mind you, get some kind of confirmation on what these forces are. Oh, look at that, Perpetua's just straight chilling in that tube over there. Hey, what's that over there? Mother of the Universe. Oh, right. But we get this nice half explanation of the forces here. So the two forces in Drowned Earth were the Tear of Extinction and the Graveyard of the Gods. See, the problem is this series lacks stakes. And by stakes, I mean something that kinda actually explains something. By the end of this issue, we still don't know what the other three forces are. We don't know why Brainiac connected to Luthor. We don't know why Sinestro's still on this fucking team. I think the forces don't work because they don't come together to form a whole greater than the sum of their parts. Let's look at the emotional spectrum in Green Lantern. You have 7 cores, one for each emotion: rage, avarice, fear, willpower, hope, compassion, and love. In combination, these 7 cores cover the entirety of human emotion. Let's look at the forces of the universe. The dark side of emotion, the ability to stand slow, literal geographic location, and a tear in a bottle. What do these forces have in common? Together they don't represent the totality of the universe. They in no way fit together or connect in any meaningful way. But Lex sure needs to unlock them because boy does he love Perpetua. And this is where things get even more confusing. Luthor tells this whole story to Brainiac because for the first time in his life, he's believed in something. So he tries to convince this emotionless robot to believe in faith and aspire to something greater? Okay, fucking what? Lex mentions that Perpetua can make her greater than what they were. Snyder. Stop it, book's over. Can't even get the main conflict of this book right. The whole Doom thing was that the villains believed in the natural instincts of humanity. I mean, it makes sense for Lex to believe in that because he's a champion for humanity who hates alien ideas. Like, he wants to unlock Perpetua because she was their creator and the way they were created was perfect. But now Lex is trying to raise himself to a higher ideal? Bro, that's the Justice League's entire argument. Book's done, they both want the same thing. And at this point, Justice and Doom are basically buzzwords because the conflict is as clearly defined as the 7 forces of the universe. Doom is not trying to be greater than what you are. That is the exact opposite, Lex. I cannot believe that Lex just forgets his philosophy at this point in the run. But Perpetua is love and Perpetua is life, so Brainiac joins Luthor's cult and the two have this bro moment over wanting to spread faith. So that's what's up with the Legion. Boy, it's something. Now let's jump into what is easily the best arc in this series, the 6th Dimension, which is aptly named considering the League plots to travel to the 5th dimension. God, can anything in this book make sense? Can't the League just mindlessly punch an alien invasion? God, Hitch, I miss you. The complexity of this book doesn't stem from thought-provoking Morrison-esque concepts. It stems from editing oversights and barrages of contradictory text. So the League aspires to their higher ideals of justice by contacting known supervillain Mr. Mxyzptlk, because they want to go to the 5th dimension. Why they do this? I don't know. They just kind of do this based off a whim. Hey, 6th dimension sound good to you guys? Yeah, why not? Yeah, sure. What else would we do? No real evidence or anything. But Mxyzptlk tells them, the fuck are you guys looking for in the 5th dimension? That shit's in the 6th dimension. And welcome everyone to the 6th dimension. Except the 6th dimension literally isn't the 6th dimension, it's just the future. And it's great because the Justice League beat the Legion of Doom. Also, John's a White Lantern now, although don't worry because whenever someone becomes a White Lantern in the series, it never matters. But things in the 6th dimension are great. DC let Dick Grayson stay as Batman for more than just the 18 months that Grant Morrison convinced them to do. Martian Manhunter and Hawkgirl have a kid, Jimmy Olsen's a war criminal, but as in Titans of Tomorrow, as in Justice Lords, as in any story where the heroes travel to a utopian future or timeline, things are secretly really evil. This grandpa version of Superman captured the real Superman and trapped him on a dying moon. And this grandpa version of Superman isn't even Superman at all. He's the World Forger. And he could only create this perfect world by killing everyone who believed in doom instead of justice. Because at some point in the future, the multiverse is going to speed towards a final cosmic judgment from a celestial tribunal to see whether the multiverse believes in justice or doom. So yeah, yet another story about the death of the multiverse. Why does every story have to be the biggest end of the world event of all time?
It is the thing that I've been building towards forever.
A lot of people complain that this run lacks any real stakes because it's always focusing on the death of the multiverse. And I don't think that's why it fails. I think you can still tell a really compelling story about the death of the multiverse. Snyder's Justice League fails because it's executed poorly. Let's take a look at another Justice League story about a team of supervillains led by Lex Luthor. One of the greatest Justice League stories of all time, Rock of Ages. Rock of Ages is also about the end of the multiverse, but it's paced like an actual fucking story. Stakes are always high, but the story paces itself to allow room for increased tension as the story continues. I mean, in the first issue, the Injustice Gang nearly kills an entire city with their hero duplicates. In the next few issues, it turns out that the villains are planning to kill the entire Justice League, and after 4 issues of build-up, we learn their actions might incidentally enslave the entire multiverse. Each situation was massive in scale, but they still increased over time. With Snyder, we started with Death of the Multiverse in Metal. Then where else is there to go? Maybe Death of the Multiverse and No Justice. Geez, what haven't we done in a while? Death of the Multiverse. Hey, you know what seems to be working? Death of the Multiverse. Jesus Christ, went one whole arc without Death of the Multiverse? I'm not feeling so good. Oh, thank God. He can't raise the stakes because the bar was set so high from the beginning. And the difference between the death of the Earth and the death of the multiverse is just arbitrary at that point. All of the main characters in the book live on Earth, so if the villain succeeded in destroying the Earth, or the multiverse, or the Omnidodeca Pentaverse or whatever the fuck, the series would still be over. Now I understand that Justice League is a book about a team of superheroes stopping massive world-ending threats, so the scope is always going to be larger than a crime drama or Blue's Clues. But just because it's in the superhero genre, doesn't mean that the stories have to be about the end of everything. Take the Justice League animated series, where the characters don't evacuate the fucking planet in the backup story. They deal with smaller level threats that still require the League to stop. That's not saying you can't tell a good end of the world story, you just have to pace it properly. A well-told story is like a good dick reveal. Rock of Ages slowly unzips its pants a little at a time until the climax of the story, when Morrison reveals an impressive dick that meets all expectations. Snyder's Justice League started with its pants down, then in the next story he reveals the guy has 3 dicks, then it's secretly a woman. Instead of getting more intense, the situation just gets more ridiculous. Imagine this series with better pacing. In the totality, Sinestro never tries to destroy the Earth with Umbrax, Grodd never tries to freeze the universe. It's just the League and the Legion fighting over the totality to try and discover what it has to offer. Let the reveal of the 7 forces come later, no need to cram them in at the start. Then over the next few arcs, we learn about the 7 forces of the universe, tension increases as the Legion gathers more and more of the forces they need, and then at the very climax of the story, they summon Perpetua. But you don't even need to pace it like that. Jeff Johns balances Justice League run by following every epic story with a few lower stakes stories as well. After Forever Evil, we got Lex joining the League, the Injustice League, and the Amazovirus before we got Darkseid War. He allowed himself room to explore the aftermath of his large events. When something happens, Jeff takes the time to explain it and understand its impact. After saving the universe in Forever Evil, we see Lex spend issues methodically planning to join the Justice League, we get a fleshed out side plot of Captain Cold getting hired as Luthor's bodyguard, and we explore established questions like what happened to the Power Ring after the League defeated the Crime Syndicate. If Snyder handled Forever Evil, Lex would give us a 10-page monologue at the start of the next issue explaining how he's already on the Justice League, Captain Cold would get hired and then stick around for the rest of the series without any speaking lines, and Jessica Cruz would instantly fly away to kick off the next summer event that gets delayed until August and spins out into the next 4 years of DC stories. Snyder confuses explanation with exploration. He sets up the idea of the ultraviolet cores and the still force, but then doesn't use them. It doesn't help that both of them were shoved into the same 6-issue story where neither of them were the main plot. which is just impressive. Instead, Snyder just tasks an overworked James Tynion with explaining his ideas in these relentless info dumps. Let's take a look at the golden standard for exploring a new universe of ideas, with Geoff Johns' Green Lantern. At the end of the Sinestro Corps War, which was the end of his first active Green Lantern, Johns reveals that there are 6 different Lantern Corps other than the Green Lanterns. We spend the entire second act of his run exploring each of these different corps. We spend a whole arc learning about the Red Lanterns and their blood rituals and harsh recruitment methods. We spend an entire arc learning about the sole Orange Lantern and why he's the only Orange Lantern in the universe. And by the end of the second act, we know specifically how each of these different corps work. And we didn't spend a single lecture explaining how the Red Lanterns die if they become separated from their rings. We learn by actually watching it happen. I do really love that Snyder is taking the time for all this world building, but it's just not done right. Oh, where are we? Oh yeah, the World Forger's trying to justify mass genocide to save the world, so the League obviously detests him. Except Batman.
It is the thing that I've been building towards forever.
Until the League explains that killing people just isn't right, and the World Forger joins the League. Oh, and John's still an architect. A third of each issue is dedicated to characters explaining what they are. He's an anthropologist, he's a detective, he's Hope, he's a chairman. Snyder's idea of character is telling you the same few traits about these guys. Let's watch some good Justice League shit.
We used to wrap his presents in lead foil so he couldn't peek.
You mean Santa wrapped them?
Oh, of course, dear.
Yes.
I'm dying very soon.
Yes. I'm sorry.
You think I need this mace to take you down?
I'm just like a helicopter! I'm sorta like a helicopter.
Each of these characters has a distinct voice. If you gave that Flash quote to Hawkgirl or Superman or Batman, it would be incredibly jarring, because these are fundamentally different people. But Snyder's Leaguers are all the same. If you remove the lines about people mentioning that they're a detective or a journalist, you could just rearrange the dialogue in any way you want. Let me show you a page from Snyder's run. But moments ago, something came to life. Something containing all the wall's energy, its power, almost like its battery or core. This totality is rocketing towards Earth and will impact in 3 minutes. 3? Flash, can you get a read on it? Scanning now. Holy, the energy it's made of is older than anything in the multiverse. But it's moving with a kind of purpose, phasing. You think it's coming here for a reason? If our multiverse is dying, maybe this thing can help. Sure, like the Omega Titans did. I don't know, but it's sending some kind of code. I can't decipher the whole thing, but it's mathematical. Architectural, like this. There's a myth on New Genesis that before the Source Wall was our incubator, and when our universe was ready, a messenger would come through it with a code to evolve the universe. You're saying the heart of the Source Wall just started rocketing towards the planet, and inside it is a message that might give anyone who decodes it limitless power? Or it could kill us all? And then it hits here in 3 minutes? 2 minutes now, but yes. Anyone could have said that stuff, right? Well, the answer is yes, because I switched all of the characters' dialogue in the scene and it still read fine. Character and characterization are two very different things. Characterization is the surface level traits about these characters. Character is revealed in the decisions and actions our characters make throughout the story. But Snyder's only interested in the surface level traits about these characters. Whenever any of these characters do try and insert one of their opinions, they have to preface it by saying what they are. As an architect, as a detective. I don't need you to list your credentials before you tell me what you have to say. Your actions will reveal what type of person you are. That's what the audience is interested in. But again, no one has a chance to act in the series because they're all getting talked at while Starman, Batman, or some random villager talks monologues at them for an entire issue. Everything is explained rather than shown. Oh, and I was getting so caught up in Snyder's characterization that I almost glazed over the fact that Batman just agreed to murder trillions of people. In the sixth dimension, Bruce must make the impossible decision between murdering trillions of people and not murdering trillions of people. And it's this riveting storytelling that really keeps the reader on the edge of their seat. And halfway through the story, oh no, Bruce agrees to killing trillions of people. This decision is dumb, because it's a non-choice. There are 2 possible outcomes of this decision. Either A, Batman actually believes that killing all these people is a good idea, and if that's true, it's gonna get retconned, changed, or forgotten about, because typically we want our heroes to land somewhere below Joseph Stalin on the kill count. Or B, Batman's just tricking the World Forger and he's going to save the day at the end of the story. Which he does. There's no tension because the dilemma is so cartoonishly one-sided. You expect me to believe that Batman just kills Superman off halfway through the story? Absolutely not. That's not how this stuff works. This is just the illusion of choice. Batman's never going to betray Superman, so the twist is just gimmicky. If Batman had to choose between Superman's life and millions of others, sure, that's a decision. But if saving those millions means also killing the same amount of people, we know there's no way he'd go through with it. But while the League is away in the 6th dimension, Lex Luthor's been busy on Earth. He and Brainiac spread their newfound love of faith with the Justice League.
Hello. Oh, great. Mormons.
To stop Mr. Mxyzptlk and save the Earth. And this makes Lex look like a hero for some reason. I guess the League just didn't put out a warrant for his arrest when he tried mind controlling the planet, but that doesn't surprise me considering all 3 of the brain cells in the series are shared between Martian Manhunter and the Batman Who Laughs. So in order to summon the rise of Perpetua, the Legion storms the White House and broadcasts a message to the world telling them to side with Doom. I guess Lex stopping Mxyzptlk really preemptively justifies the whole treason thing, because he just kills everyone in the White House. But if the public is brain dead enough to side with Doom, boy will those cosmic judges be happy. Also, siding with Doom is the final step in unlocking Perpetua. No, it's not. There was one step to unlocking Perpetua. Discover those hidden forces, which you're doing a piss poor job of doing, by the way, Lex. No new entity, be it Brainiac, the space judges, or the Batman Who Laughs, stepped in and told Lex he needs to run a recruitment campaign. So that can only mean that Lex doesn't believe that the 7 forces do anything for some reason, and he somehow concludes that this is how you unlock his space mom. I think Snyder just got tired of the 7 forces because the Legion only has 4 of them yet. Why are we deviating from the established plot? There was a clear path, just stick to it. But in a shocking twist, as his final sacrifice to Doom, Lex Luthor blows up LexCorp with himself inside the building. It's time to check in on the Legion of Doom. But because Lex is dead and this would be a good issue to focus on the underdeveloped members of the Legion, let's actually just spend this issue explaining the origin of the universe. Also, we start this issue with Perpetua just casually waking up from her test tube. Do any rules apply in this book? I thought they needed to unlock the 7 forces, but assuming those mean fuck all now, I thought they at least needed to get the public on their side. And because every important event in this book is given the gravity of a middle school participation grade, Perpetua's first grand act after awakening from her slumber for millennia is to creep out of her bed like a child and pretend to sleep when her parents show back up. And we get this long history about Perpetua creating our multiverse to overthrow the cosmic judges who are not on the same power level as her, but who are infinitely more powerful than her. We also get tiny little baby Barbados. Aww. But whoa, back it up there, Snyder. For what reason is Perpetua not the most powerful goddamn being in this story? Why did we just casually introduce like 1,000 other multiverses and beings who are just more powerful than Perpetua? Talk about power creep. Adding all these uber cosmic beings robs Perpetua of her uniqueness. I'm not too worried about her if any of the more infinitely powerful beings who also hate her and are actively hunting her down catch up to her and banish her for all of eternity. I think this is a fine origin to the universe, and I like seeing all the connections to the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor, but this is just not the most compelling secret origin in the universe. Like, it's fine, I guess, but it's not world-breaking. I'd rather the DC universe be created by Dr. Manhattan or anyone else more interesting. There's no rush of insight upon learning this secret, because it was never built up to. It's just a brand new character. The humans and the Martians being related at one point is fine, but it's not special, it's not amazing. If we're going to reveal the secret origin of the DC universe, it better be the best goddamn thing ever. So yes, I love the passion in this book. The way everything is tied together just brings a smile to my face. But wow, is there so many ways this could be better. And that's why it's a little disappointing. This isn't a bad or uninteresting story, it's just not told well. The characters are interchangeable, the exposition is nonstop, and everything has to top something else. Oh, and Lex Luthor's still alive. Hey guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at InfinityIncom1, and let me know which of these arcs is your favorite in this run so far. And I'll see you guys next time.